y'all, welcome or welcome back. My name's Rachel and this is my August TBR. So for the month of July, I read a whole bunch of spooky stuff, and while that is my jam, I love it so much. I have missed being in my fantasy sci-fi romance mood. I get a little hyper-focused on a genre and I dive deep, and I'm ready to get back to my roots and read more fantasy and sci-fi this month. So August, rounding out summer, I'm going back into some SFF with a sprinkle of romance, and we'll see what else I decide to throw in there as I always either deviate or add to my TBR. But I am excited this month. I do have a little stack of books that I already own, so I'm not totally doing a library audiobook TBR, but there's still a lot of books on here that are not off of my physical shelves, but that's okay. First off, the Literally Dead book club pick for the month of August is What Moves the Dead. I'm super hyped for this. I really like T. Kingfisher. I've read The Twisted Ones and The Hollow Places by her, and I want to read Nettle and Bone, but What Moves the Dead is her new release. I have a little poster of it hanging up somewhere that I got from Tor. So I'm super excited to get to this one. All I know is that it's like a House of Usher inspired horror, and it's pretty short, and it has a super gorgeous, really cool cover. So excited for that one. Next up on my TBR is not this whole thing. This is an H.G. Wells collection, but I want to read The Island of Dr. Moreau in preparation for also reading The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. So I want to read these in tandem, not really to compare them, but just because it seems fun. Also, I haven't read a book out of this beautiful Barnes & Noble H.G. Wells collection, and I really, really want to. I also want to read more classics this year, and I have been failing. So The Island of Dr. Moreau, and like I said, the next book I want to read right after that is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau. Next up on my Stephen King bibliographical, on my Stephen King journey is The Dead Zone. I'm so excited to get to this. This is less on the horror side and more on the speculative thriller side, if I'm not mistaken. I have read like the first chapter of this and really enjoyed it, but then I got distracted by a million other things. So I'm really excited to get to this, not only because I'm excited to take this off of my list, but also to move on to his other works, because I do love me some Stephen King most of the time. There's been a few misses, but very rarely. Okay, next up is the romances that I want to get to this month. So I have 3 on my list. 1 I own and 2 are from the library. Thank you, Libby. So the first book that I want to get to is Sweethand by N.G. Peltier. I don't know a ton about this. It showed up on like my library's recommended, so I thought I would give it a shot. I do know that it is an enemies to lovers romance, which is one of my favorite tropes. It is about, I don't know the characters' names, but our main character is going to be a bridesmaid, and a guy that she knows from her childhood and has never liked is going to be the best man. Or no, she's going to be the maid of honor, and he's going to be the best man. Forced proximity, enemies to lovers. I love that. Next up on my list is A Lot Like Adiós by by Alexis Daria. A couple of years ago, I read You Had Me at Hola, and I super enjoyed that book. It was so much fun, and I wanted to read something else by her. So A Lot Like Adiós follows, again, 2 main characters that have a childhood backstory and have never really liked each other, although I think the male main character had a crush on our female main character. So it's not quite enemies to lovers, but it is a second chance romance, which I also really love. There's not a bunch of romance tropes that I don't love, quite honestly, if they're done right. So I am excited about these 2. And I forgot to take this off my shelf, but the other book that I want to read is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. Kwan? Yes, Kevin Kwan. I didn't read this when it was all the rage, and it's been sitting on my shelf, and I really want to get to it because it seems really fun. This is less of a romance and more of just a familial comedy, I believe, but I'm really excited to finally get to this, and maybe the other 2. I haven't heard as great things about the other 2 as I have for this, But yeah, I'm excited to try this one out. Next up is a historical fiction just Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. I have been highly anticipating getting to this in my Ruta Sepetys read through that I've been doing. And I'm really excited for this. She writes such beautiful, wonderful YA historical fiction that I hesitate to even say YA. Yes, she does write YA, but it's more of an accessibility thing than an actual targeted for young adult thing. Because I truly believe that young adult, or even right before you're like reached the young adult age, I believe that her books are just so accessible, and they cover parts of history that don't really get taught in schools or in textbooks. So I'm just going to read, the blurb for this is like really short, so I'm just going to read it out because I don't know a lot about what this is about. So it's the winter of 1945, 4 teenagers and 4 secrets. Each one born of a different homeland, each one hunted and haunted by tragedy, lies, and war. As thousands of desperate refugees flock to the coast in the midst of a Soviet advance, 4 paths converge, vying for passage aboard the Wilhelm Gustloff. Pronunciation is fun. A ship that promises safety and freedom, yet not all promises can be kept. So that is what this is about. I'm very excited to get to this. I love multiple perspectives. The chapters for this are super short, which also love that. And yeah, I'm excited to get to this so I can then get to that and to that because they're also highly anticipated for me. So why do I keep wanting to call it From Salt to the Sea? It's just Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. Okay. Next up for me is a book that I feel like everyone and their brother has read, and I have not, and it is time to remedy that. For my middle grade this month, I am reading Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. I've been so excited for this since I heard about it, and that usually means that I don't read it. I push aside all of the things I'm excited for because I'm scared that they're going to let me down, and I just read meh things sometimes. But I don't think this is going to let me down because I don't know of anyone that it has let down. So in this, we're following Amari Peters, and her brother Quentin is missing, but she believes he's still alive. And basically, she finds a briefcase that says Bureau of Supernatural Affairs on it, and she thinks that will lead her to Quentin. And I haven't read a middle grade fantasy in a hot minute. I'm super geeked about this one. Next up, bouncing off of the fantasy middle grade, is an adult fantasy. So before, I wanted to read this, but the library only had the bind up of all 3 books. I don't think I'm going to read all 3 books. I just want to read the first book, but I have all 3 books from the library. It's so thick. The Inheritance Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I have yet to read a book by this author, and I really want to, and I saw this on the library shelf, and I said, well, now's the time. And I read the first sentence, and I was like, that's pretty cool first sentence. So the first book in this trilogy is The 100,000 Kingdoms. And chapter 1 just says, I am not as I once was. They have done this to me, broken me, open and torn out my heart. I do not know who I am anymore. I must try to remember. Okay, so not the first sentence, the first tiny paragraph. Anyway, that sounds amazing. I don't know much about this because there's no thing on the back. It's just a bunch of reviews saying how great it is. So I think this is like, has to do with gods and goddesses. I don't know. I'm excited. I've wanted to read a book by her for a very long time. And this month is the month. Did you see the doubt in my eye? I felt the doubt. Finally, on my list is a ebook that I'm getting from the library. It just came in, so I'm going to have to send that to my Kindle. But it is Out There by Kate Folk. This book really hadn't been on my radar. I hadn't heard much about it, but I saw Books and Lala like read it in one of her vlogs or something. And when I saw the cover, I thought it was like YA or something, just because those colors usually feel YA-y to me. But apparently it's a collection of sci-fi stories, sci-fi short stories. And I love that. One of my favorite books ever is Exhalation by Ted Chiang. I loved that book. Every story in there, like, they're a collection of sci-fi stories, and they all hit something personal but also societal, and it's just, he's amazing. And I want to get back into like sci-fi and stuff, and I feel like sci-fi short stories are a great way to go if you want to get back into sci-fi, or if you just want to try out sci-fi, or if you just want to be really introspective and think a lot. So Out There by Kate Folks seemed like a really good pick for me, and I'm super excited to dig into it because I feel like I'm really going to love it. And with that, I believe that is all the books that I consciously want to get to this month. I know, since I never really plan out my audiobook listening, so I don't know what other books are going to filter in to my month. I'm probably going to listen to a few more Goosebumps books. I'm probably going to listen to a couple of true crime books, and I'm probably going to pick up a few things I've never heard of or just randomly see as available and I grab. Who knows? I certainly don't know. But that is my fantasy, sci-fi, romance reading plans for the month of August. I'd love to hear what y'all are most excited about reading. What am I most excited to get to? I think it's a toss-up between the first book in the Inheritance Trilogy and Amari and the Night Brothers, because I'm super geeked about fantasy right now, and I've been anticipating devouring these for a while. But yes, that is my TBR. I hope y'all have a great day and a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!